Well, anyway, Nitro
101, also, of course, August 18th, 1997. Show opens with Raven in the dark, cutting a promo about teen angst. And how if one was not attractive or athletic or didn't fit in, they were in for a lifetime of suffering. The scars they suffered would be permanent. And the past is never far behind. He never got what he needed from his father, so he knew what this pain was like, and he didn't see why others couldn't understand it. And I'm watching this on a Tuesday evening here in 2016, and it kicked me right in the gut, because I was that person. I can confirm. And when you are an unhappy teenager, and you're not attractive or athletic, and you don't fit in, you don't get over it. It ruins your life forever.
Wow.
Then it occurred to me, when he actually cut this promo, I'd have been 21 years old and really feeling all that stuff. I must have missed this show, because I don't understand a 21-year-old me could have watched this promo and not killed myself.
Wow. I'm amazed you got so much out of this. I literally heard Raven start rambling like Bray Wyatt, and I didn't hear a goddamn word he said after that. I was like, dude, you're a grown man. What are you talking about?
This promo spoke to Vinny.
It did. It hit me. It did hit me.
I just wrote in all caps, just a bunch of words. And meanwhile, this is Vinny's life in a nutshell.
Play some Morrissey. Nitro Girls danced. I must say, as my job...
See, maybe that's what turned you around.
They may have. I must say, as my job as a professional critic of wrestling TV shows, the gal in the back left was terrible.
Was it Kimberly?
No.
She had the rep of being the worst.
I don't know what... the only one I know at this point is Kimberly. It was not her. Harlem Heat versus Vicious and Delicious. Neither of you will believe this, but I think all young wrestlers need to watch this match.
This was a good match.
For Buff Bagwell?
Stevie Ray put on a clinic of how not to be a babyface in peril.
That's fair.
They go to trip him for the Heat, and he didn't so much trip as he just stopped running, and then he hit him and he went down. And about 2 minutes later, it's time for the hot tag, and his attempt to build drama. We've seen Ricky Morton or Shawn Michaels as Jeff Hardy, and they're on their back, and they're arching in pain and screaming and dragging themselves and gasping for air and crawling by their fingernails to that corner. Stevie stands straight up. His expression is blank. He holds out his hand, and he just walks a little slower than usual as he goes to the corner. He tags in Booker. Booker runs wild for a while, and then Vincent interferes with a DQ.
You know, maybe this wasn't a great technical match, but I still liked it. Because when Booker made the hot tag, the place went absolutely crazy. And he's running wild, and they're going nuts. And the finish is, Vincent jumps up on the apron, and I guess he hits somebody or something. But the point is, the ref doesn't even see it, but he calls for the bell anyway. Like, the most random disqualification ever. And the amazing thing was, the fans were so happy that Booker T and Stevie Ray got their hands raised.
Yeah.
They didn't even care how. They went crazy when it was announced that Booker T and Stevie Ray had won via disqualification.
All I know is this was the first of many, many appearances by the NWO in run-in fashion on this show.
Yeah, I hope you get used to them. Yeah, three people in this match are very good. Stevie Ray was also there.
Bagwell's great.
Then
he jumped into the camera afterwards and he explained, I can't believe it's a DQ. This ain't Harlem.
Yeah.
That was his excuse for losing.
They're not
whatever.
They're not supposed to win unless they're in Harlem.
Yeah. By the way, this was the week that the WCW Thunder was announced as kicking off in January.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Which, by the way, later, Eric Bischoff in his promo very briefly mentioned, JJ, we still want our show.
Yeah.
Because at the time, the idea was that Thunder was going to be NWO Thunder. But between now and the end of the year, they do an NWO Nitro, which is such an absolute epic failure that they dropped the idea.
They already did a pay-per-view.
Did they do the sold-out pay-per-view?
They do, but they try a Nitro.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't learn their lesson with the pay-per-view.
No. They try a Nitro, where they actually had sets built and everything.
I remember they did it. I remember no details.
Because it sucked.
But we'll get there. Barbarian versus Mortis.
Speaking of sucks.
First of all, I love that Barbarian and Meng are the biggest, toughest, most savage, animalistic tag team on the roster, but they come to the ring in blue velvet.
Hey,
Whatever's comfy.
last week on this show, Meng beat Wrath.
Correct.
Now, I, last week, second-guessed that because Wrath has only been there a while. They were trying to give the guy a push. Why was he losing to Meng? Well, this week, Ball Bearing came out here and beat Mortis, and then I understood. They're doing a tag feud.
Right.
Okay, well then that's fine. I'm cool with Meng and Barbarian winning both these matches.
Well, that's what happened. Barbarian, they went back and forth a bit. Barbarian mauled him like a bear, had a power slam, and a kick of fear for the win.
Which they said may have been a loaded boot.
He did stomp his foot on the mat. So Wrath attacks Barbarian. Meng attacks Wrath, puts him in the tongue and death grip, and the segment ends with Meng alone standing tall.
Vander.
I was just saying, can you imagine a non-fan if they just tuned in and they heard you talking about Meng and the Barbarian beat Mortis and Wrath?
Sure.
Vandenberg tried to pull out Wrath, and he pulled him with such might that he pulled him clean out of the ring and dropped him on the mats below.
Thanks, Jim. Eric Bischoff comes out for a promo. He hypes up the Clash of the Champions show they had that Thursday.
I just love the idea that Jim pulled Wrath.
That's a small man pulling a big
very,
man.
Very powerful
That's true.
man.
Yeah. Well,
Modern day Paul Ellering.
He was determined.
he had Satan's power behind him. So Eric starts taunting Larry Zbyszko. He reminds everyone Larry cannot get within 50 feet of him, and that's it. Gene Okerlund brought Ric Flair and Kurt Hennig out for a promo. He asked them about their match against Conan and Six at the Clash.
Did you note, by the way, that they announced that Ric Flair was going to be facing Conan tonight?
I know they announced Flair versus Conan and Six at the Clash.
They announced Flair versus Conan tonight,
That's not what happened.
and then Flair wrestled Six.
Yeah.
Because apparently they had all these luchadors, and they wanted the luchadors to fly in on Sundays to make sure they were there on Monday. And all the luchadors decided they were going to change their flights to Monday, probably so that they could work an extra day in Mexico.
Sure.
And then the flights just never showed up.
Oops.
So every Mexican, except for La Parca, missed the show.
Well,
Which, by the way, keep that in mind when you watch the Ric Flair match with Six, which was 100% called in the ring. Because here, less than an hour earlier, they still thought that Conan was going to show up.
that's amazing. That's a very WCW thing right there, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe he missed all the lights like Eva Marie.
So Flair says Kurt Hennig will soon be a horseman. And Kurt again denies this. And Kurt starts to cut this promo and says, since I've been here, I've faced WCW wrestlers. I've faced NWO wrestlers. I haven't found anyone who can give me any competition. And Gene yanks the mic away and says, what about the Giant? And Kurt looks at him and basically says, thank you for stealing my thunder. Yes, I'm fighting the Giant tonight. And he finishes his promo like a pro. But what the hell, Gene? So Kurt vows to bury the Giant deep beneath the earth, and then he and Flair leave together, even though Kurt has essentially rejected him about 18 times by now.
I know, and I actually love the fact that Flair brings him out and addresses it every week on live television. Putting the man on the spot. Listen, I know you tell me no backstage, but I'm going to make sure to bring it up in front of the people to put you on the spot so that eventually you will say, okay, fine, I will be a horseman.
Were they that desperate for a new guy?
Flair was.
Had to go begging.
I don't think Benoit Mongo cared one bit.
They did not. Stevie Richards versus Scotty Riggs.
Okay. Maybe I'm old, all right?
Yeah.
But this bothered me in the 90s as well. Riggs is out there. He's looking all professional. He's got a physique. He's got real gear. He's got a tan. And Stevie Ray is out there. Stevie Richards, skinny fat, half shirt on, jean shorts.
No, Daisy Dukes.
Daisy Dukes. And he's the guy getting pushed. My biggest issue with ECW, actually there were a lot of them, but one of them was that so many of the guys looked like total backyarders. Like, I could not, as a wrestling fan, especially one brought up watching mostly WWF, I watched this ECW and it's like, not one of you guys makes enough money to, like, get a seamstress. You all just go to Walmart and wear whatever you find on the discount rack. And there was a point in this match where Stevie gets his half shirt ripped off, and it was like an immediate improvement. I was like, you went from a backyarder to kind of looking like a wrestler now. Is it just me?
In Stevie's case, he was not supposed to look cool. He was a dork comedy gimmick. Well, I don't know why he beat Scotty Riggs clean in this case, but yes. Now, my reaction, and I talked about this earlier, I didn't see a ton of ECW, but every time I watched it, in large part because it was guys out there in essentially street clothes, it stood out as different, and so that was good.
It was different, but I didn't find it good.
But at the same time, the guys that actually had gear, your Chris Jerichos, your Chris Candidos, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, RVD. Okay, that's the exception to this rule, but those guys are the ones that actually the fans respected because of their wrestling. Everybody else, I mean, anybody can get some jean shorts and cut them up. And
that's the key.
Exactly.
I think part of it was I was a backyard wrestler.
Right.
And so I didn't want to watch a show with a bunch of my geek friends having matches on a trampoline ring. That's what it looked like to me at the time.
Well, to be fair, it was very well booked backyard.
It was. I mean, the booking was good. And there were talented guys there, but I could not get past. I don't know.
The Public Enemy that shows up in WCW is not the Public Enemy that was in ECW. They were just as bad. They were just booked way better. Paul E.
Of course, that's
exploited their strengths instead of letting them go out there and do what they do on WCW television, which is look like fools.
So they do this match. And all I wrote about the match itself was it's a match that barely needed to happen at all and certainly didn't need to break the 5-minute mark. Riggs did a terrible suplex they called a brainbuster. And Stevie caught him coming into the corner with a super kick for the win. Raven immediately hit the ring and dropped Stevie with a DDT. And this is to set up Raven versus Stevie at the Clash.
Yeah.
All right.
All I know is I just watched Shawn Michaels, and then I watched Stevie Ray, or Stevie Richards. I watched both. Neither was Shawn Michaels.
No.
Stevie Richards was closer to Shawn Michaels than Stevie Ray.
I'm not sure. Stevie Ray had gear.
I'm sure.
Well, they both did do a tag match.
Yes.
Stevie Ray did not sell as well as Shawn Michaels.
You don't say. Let me write that down.
Here's the extent that Stevie Ray had over Shawn Michaels. He did have a better tan. I will say that.
Shawn Michaels greater than
Stevie Ray.
Okay, I'll add that to the list.
Put a bunch of greater thans in that. Jeff Jarrett and Eddie Guerrero join Gene for a promo. And they're talking, and Alex Wright comes out to interrupt.
Dude, am I the only one that is amused every week by Alex Wright?
I was very amused this week.
He's
Alex
great.
Wright interrupts. He takes the mic, and he declares with joy in his voice, "Deborah, I'm here. I'm ready to join your team." She says that he's explaining to her, by taking him onto her team, she has a chance to not be a loser like all these people out there. And as he says this, Eddie Guerrero looks out at the people and says, this is a fair point. You are losers. Eddie was the actual star of the segment. He didn't even speak.
Yeah.
So Deborah buries Alex for not having a title anymore. He had just lost the Cruiserweight belt to Chris Jericho. So Alex says, "That's fine. I shall go win a championship this Thursday, and I'll get back to you."
And that's when Eddie looks at the camera, rolls his eyes.
That and we talked about what a great dancer he was.
Yeah.
So Deborah explains, after the Clash, Jeff will retain the U.S. belt, Eddie is going to go win the Cruiserweight belt, and if Alex wins the TV title, maybe I'll accept him.
But Alex did note, once I go win that title, I'll talk to you if I want to.
Yes.
It's like, what a horribly delivered line that was. But that made it great.
It did make it great.
He's such a numbskull. This was like a segment on an indie show, just with better production values.
The NWO celebrated their first birthday. What this was a group of very large, wealthy, 40-year-old men playing with sparklers and singing happy birthday.
Out of key.
Yeah.
For one promo, I really enjoyed this.
If only
I'll
they'd
have more
been
to say later.
At a trampoline place.
Yes. Jarrett and Eddie versus Benoit and McMichael.
I must speak on this for a moment. First off, the heat was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Mongo is in there.
I think it's the only time they ever chanted Mongo's name.
They should have. Mongo's in there with Eddie, and Mongo is going to deliver a flapjack.
Oh yeah,
but they mistime it.
Right.
And so if you've ever wanted to see what a shoot flapjack would look like, this is your lucky day. Mongo lifts his ass up in the air, herks him high into the air, and then falls back and does a flapjack. Mongo is so awesome because whenever he is in the ring, the match is always in imminent danger of completely collapsing.
Right.
But somehow, probably because his partner is Chris Benoit, and on this night he was in the ring with Jeff Jarrett and Eddie Guerrero, it always manages to stay together somehow.
It's like they're wrestling on the edge of a cliff.
It's
it
so exciting.
Frankly,
there's nothing this exciting in wrestling today.
You can take this even just move to move, because even in the middle of a move, his technique is so bad that you would think he'd not be able to lift the guy up, but he's just so mighty it doesn't matter. And it goes the other way when he's on defense as well. Often he's out of position for stuff or doesn't know how to take it. It doesn't matter. They just hit him anyway, and he doesn't care. He's seriously one of my all-time favorite bad wrestlers.
Oh, yeah, he's amazing.
I don't know.
He is amazing.
He's much better than his rep.
Watching Mongo play babyface...
No, he's just as bad, but he's much more entertaining.
Watching Mongo play babyface in peril was something.
Yes. So, it goes without saying, Chris Benoit was good at his job. There's a four-way brawl breaks out. Mongo stops to confront his wife, Deborah. He takes the U.S. title. He plants Jarrett with his belt shot. He tosses Eddie out of the ring, and Benoit gets the pin. That was great.
Let's talk about what was not great. Hall and Nash come out. Kevin Nash, renowned as a great talker and a great promo.
May I... Here's everything that happened.
That's where I'm going.
Okay.
They came out. They said they are going to prove they're the best that there's ever been, and they are too sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they left. How much time did this take?
Here's what I wrote. Outsiders came out for a promo. They said they would beat Luger and Page later. I swear to God, it took them 5 minutes to do this.
You wrote way more than I did.
It took me 2 seconds to recap. This sucked.
Well, they had to stroll to the ring looking really cool, and...
Now, we skipped over something. It was a recap, but I want to talk about it for a minute, because it's something we overlooked. The segment from last week with Sting and J.J. Dillon.
My favorite angle.
We'll get to this more this week, but I want to go back to last week. J.J. offers Sting a match, and he says, I will give you the match you've been waiting for. I have here a contract for a one-on-one match with 6. Now, the two of you are fathers, but Brian, your child is very, very young, so I'm going to talk to Craig for a second. Craig, as you've been raising this young man, at any point in the past, how old is he?
He's 10.
10. In the past decade, have you ever had the misfortune of catching him in a lie?
Of course.
The look you gave Cameron the first time you caught him in a lie is exactly the look Sting gave to J.J. Dillon when J.J. offered this match against 6. You've never seen a man so disappointed.
Disappointed and angry.
Yes.
And he's a man wearing paint.
Yes.
It's incredibly great.
It is so astounding. So we have 6 versus Ric Flair.
This was a hell of a match.
Yeah.
They all called in the ring. It was one simple high spot after another.
What it was every Ric Flair match. The babyface takes 80% of it, and the heel gets offense for about 2 minutes, and then the babyface takes the other 80% of it. And I realize that doesn't add up, but trust me, it works. It was great. I also loved Mike Tenay explaining in the promo, Hall and Nash had referred to Luger and Page as a couple of J Brones.
Could not believe that.
And Mike Tenay says, for those of you who don't know, J Brone is a technical term for a professional wrestler without the greatest one-loss record.
Yeah.
Very serious.
Hey, at least somebody explain one of these inside terms.
So they had an incredibly fun match. 6 was so good. Why was...
Flair was so good.
Well, duh. We all know Flair was good. Flair, the reputation people have from X-Pac in these days is the X-Pac heat term. Who would not want to watch Sean Waltman wrestle?
I think that may have come a little bit later.
I'm mystified. So they're doing this great match, and Flair goes to the figure 4 when all the B-teamers hit the ring for the DQ. And Hennig runs out to make the save, and he hits the ring, and the B-team scatters before he can lay a hand on them. Gene meets with J.J. Dillon and Nick Patrick on the ramp.
Oh, my God.
Listen, okay.
Dude, this ain't even a 3-hour show. This is a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
I will summarize. This was two referees insulting each other. It was death on TV, and finally J.J. Dillon had his best moment in all of the 90s.
I wrote this. I wrote exactly.
Did you write down his whole
words.
speech? What he said was, WCW has enough problems without the officials coming out here and second-guessing each other's decisions. As far as I'm concerned, Gene, this interview is over.
That was amazing.
It was done.
And you know what?
It sucked so bad.
He was absolutely right. This company has got enough problems without you two fuckers doing an angle. And I don't know where it goes. I don't remember. But I do know it sucks.
I can guarantee
I think it leads to a match, doesn't it?
Didn't they already do the Nick Patrick heel turn recently?
Yeah, they got to peel him back.
Yeah, and then he came back.
Okay, I don't care. Ultimate Dragon versus La Parka. The best part of this, and maybe the best part of the whole show, Dragon gets whipped into the corner, and he does the headstand on top of the top turnbuckle.
Thank you for bringing this up.
And La Parka is so mystified, all he can do is stop and point.
Wow.
That man's upside down.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he charges and gets kicked.
And you think somebody would catch on to what he was doing? He's seen one Ultimo Dragon match. He does it like in every match.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't charge the man. Maybe I should wait till he gets tired and then take over on offense.
Eventually, gravity will win.
Right.
Well, he didn't go in a headstand every time he got sent into the corner. So you could charge him sometimes.
That's true. So then actually, the luchador and the Japanese guy who wrestled in Mexico a lot had a very U.S.-style match. The manager interfered for the heat.
I thought the finish was great. They how many DQ finishes have we seen on this show?
It feels like 50.
Park escapes, goes for a whip, there's a reversal, Sonny Ono kicks the wrong guy, Dragon puts him back in the Dragon Sleeper. They teased a screwjob finish, but then delivered an actual finish.
Yes. Why not?
I loved it.
Why not just do an actual finish? That was my reaction. Kurt Hennig versus the Giant. First of all,
Fans are so into the Giant.
yeah.
Oh,
Before the match even began, I began to wonder, hey, I wonder if Kurt's on the list of guys who had matches against both the Giant and Andre the Giant. And a 20-second Google search, I did not find that. I did find Kurt and Andre as a team against Killer Khan and Tiger Chung Lee on Daily Motion.
oh my God, did you watch it?
No. But you may all go check that out. So this match was not what I was expecting. I was expecting Kurt Hennig to play keep away, stick and move, and then maybe eventually get caught and beat up. No, Kurt Hennig went at the Giant toe-to-toe. So I'm going to hit this big mofo as hard as I can. And he's going to hit me as hard as I can. I'm going to take a giant bubble, go flying across the ring, and I'm going to pop up and hit him some more.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. Because maybe I got this wrong, but I want to tell you what I saw at the end. And you can correct me if I screw anything up. They're doing this match, and Bischoff storms down the aisle with his restraining order.
Right.
And he says, Giant, you are now within 50 feet of me. Doug Dillinger, come out and arrest this man.
Sure.
And Doug Dillinger says, Eric, you came within 50 feet of him, not vice versa, so we're not arresting the guy. And Bischoff says, you must arrest him. And he shoves him or whatever, and Dillinger says, we'll arrest you for assault. So then Giant leaves the ring, and now he goes after Eric. Eric goes to flee. Larry cuts him off on the aisle. And then the Giant grabs Eric and starts to goozle him. Now the man should be arrested, right?
Absolutely.
That didn't happen.
No.
Well, kinda. Security ran in to break it up. But yeah, your recap was very accurate as far as I could tell. And it looked to me like as soon as he grabbed him, the cops... Well, Eric tried to flee through the crowd. But as Giant was dragging him back, it looked to me like Doug Dillinger and security did zoom in to follow through on their legal duty and enforce this restraining order.
It's not like
weird.
It's not like if you took out a restraining order on somebody, you could taunt them and try to be 49 feet away and have them arrested.
No, that's my point. Like, the beginning of this made sense.
Sure.
Eric should not be able to walk up to Giant and have Giant arrested.
Right.
No. But then Giant did go after him and violated the restraining order. He should be in jail.
Absolutely.
Okay, just checking.
And for that matter, so should Larry.
Does Larry have the restraining order too?
Larry never laid a finger on him.
No, I think it was
No,
only,
but he was within 50 feet of him.
But I don't think Giant.
I know Bischoff said yes, he does.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, they should both be.
They both have restraining orders.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As destroying the fans, one of the fans held up a cartoon drawing of Paige and Kimberly.
It's very good.
Kimberly was so hot, her cartoon was hot. Just want to throw that out there. Lee Marshall Road Report. He's in South Carolina talking about the building they're in and the people and all this and the usual. He says, I'm at this outdoor garden exhibit thing, and they've got a butterfly exhibit where you can come in and see all these beautiful animals. It's called Jewels of the Sky. They did try an attraction called the Weasels of Dixie, but no one cared. And I wrote this down, I read it back, and said, that's terrible. I don't know if I was sick or if it was just something in Lee's delivery. I laughed out loud at this one.
Really?
I laughed out loud at the Weasels of Dixie, but it was the no one cared part that really got me.
He finally got you.
A year and a half of this garbage.
Well, the fact that Bobby didn't even react to him made it funnier.
Sure.
And now my favorite angle.
It is so perfect. It gets better every week, actually. Dylan and Okerlund come to the ring. They address Sting. And Dylan says, you know what? I've been offering contracts and matches to Sting, and he's been turning them down. My patience is wearing thin.
Yeah, which means he's had 7 more days, and he still can't figure this out.
Yes. He is a thundering dunderhead.
He's thought of everything, and now he's getting mad.
Gone up and down the roster from A to Z. Who does Sting want?
He actually said, Sting, I need you to talk. I need you to tell me what you want because, quote, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I love it.
He says, Sting, I need you to step up to the plate and tell me what match you're looking for before we are forced to go through our separate ways. And I don't want to give you an ultimatum, Sting. But within 72 hours at the Clash of Champions, I need you to tell me what match you want. Fans are chanting, Hogan, Hogan. Signs like, quote, JJ, Sting wants Hogan.
And the best part is, the fans are chanting for Hogan at the top of their lungs. They're holding up signs for Sting versus Hogan.
Numerous.
And J.J. Dillon stands in the ring and he crosses his arms and he begins stroking his chin.
JJ's crossed-armed chin stroking. Befuddlement.
Chanting,
Paul Hogan?
Fogan? Shogun? What the fuck are these people saying?
What did Sting want?
Getting pissed off.
So Sting comes through the crowd. He enters the ring. He grabs this idiot J.J. Dillon by the tie and is just pointing to signs. And the fans are chanting Hogan's name. And the announcers just sit back for a minute and just let the whole arena chant Hogan's name. They're holding up signs saying Sting versus Hogan, pointing to the sign. This could not be any more clear. Dillon is standing there, still his arms are crossed. Gene begs Sting to speak. Don't give us the silent treatment, he says. And finally, after weeks of this, Tony Schiavone can take no more. And he says, for goodness sake, he wants Hogan. So
actually, his exact quote was, just listen and look, for goodness sake.
Yes. Sting finally leaves the ring, which Gene and JJ take as a sign of rejection. He's turned his back on us again. Sting returns with a sign, which it took a fan no more than 20 seconds to make. It was a Sharpie on a white background just scribbled, Hulk versus Sting. And Sting gets in the ring and he's got this sign. And he's got, like, the back of it is turned to Gene and JJ. And Gene points to the sign and says, what do you have there? And Sting turns the sign around to reveal Hulk versus Sting. And Gene goes, and Okerlund and Dillon retreat to the corner and the segment fades to black.
That's right. They didn't even address it.
No.
Because now, the rumor is we may have an answer at the Clash of the Champions.
It appears.
This is something that would happen.
I love it.
It was something that happened on, like, the Naked Gun movies.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like one of those things that whenever I do an interview and someone goes, what is it that you love about wrestling? Explain to someone who's not a fan. Like, I couldn't really explain this without a great deal of time, but this right here, everybody,
Yes.
This is what I love about professional wrestling. You'd never see this in any other sport.
No.
You would never see this in any other form of entertainment.
The closest I can come is in Three Amigos when Steve Martin, I believe, is on the wall trying to get Chevy Chase's Martin Short's attention by imitating birds.
Sure.
Walk up here. That's the same thing. So the NWO is back at their party. Now, for one segment where they had sparklers and sang happy birthday, it was funny. Now, this went on for a while. They drew a picture of J.J. Dillon on a whiteboard. They sprayed silly string at it. Kevin Nash noted that whenever they got together, it was some dingy, crappy warehouse. Then Kevin Nash danced as everyone circled him and chanted, "Go Kev, go Kev, go Kev." Now, Brian, you mentioned this before.
I was sickened.
These men were considered cool.
Yeah.
How can that be?
Well,
Don't look at me that way.
you're the audience, dude.
Fair enough. DDP and Lex Luger versus the Outsiders.
Oh, my God.
The announcers are openly trying to figure out how J.J. Dillon can be so dumb.
They have this tag match, and the heels sold like crazy for the baby faces. They finally cut off DDP. They have the greatest old school basic tag team match. Paige fights and 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 fights. And finally, he makes the hot tag. And keep in mind, there was one moment where he almost made it and Nash cut him off and the crowd sort of died. And I thought, oh man, one time too many. But no, he finally gives a hot tag to Luger. Luger hits the ring and the place is going absolutely nuts. He hits like one clothesline, the NWO hits the ring. And it was just like,
Yep.
you couldn't even let this guy like do a full comeback
Just do a
and get
couple
one of these
slams.
guys in the rack before these idiots run in. Like literally the moment. And I know some people will say, well, Brian, they ran out of TV time. There's a goddamn referee with an earpiece on. This was not a timing issue. This was the moment he hit the ring, they sent all the guys in. And the only thing that saved it was Flair and who else ran down to
Giant.
Giant. No Hennig, by the way. Flair and Giant run down, and Tony Schiavone just goes nuts, and he's screaming, "This is war!" And there's craziness everywhere. The fans are going nuts, and Pee Wee Anderson is standing there in the middle of the ring, and he's covering his head. Like they're legit in a war, and bombs are falling from the sky. That was actually pretty fucking cool, but my God, what a terrible finish. I was so pissed off.
Okay, so Hall and Nash come out. Luger and Page are already in the ring, and the crowd greets Hall and Nash with trash, and Nash is kicking it out of the ring, and somebody throws I don't know if it's a full cup, but a soda cup hits the ring. And Nash turns in the direction from where the cup was thrown and gives a gentle wave as if to say, no, I have to wrestle in here too. And the trash stopped. That was awesome. So they do the match, and we have seen a lot of bad Kevin Nash matches, and we will see a lot more. And I feel we have buried him so often. I don't feel bad about burying him, but I feel it's important to point out that he has a good match as well. And this was a good match that he had. And it was funny because at the same time, give or take an hour, but at the same time, Hall and Nash were doing this main event tag team here on Nitro. Their best friends in the world, Shawn and Hunter, were having a main event tag team match on Raw.
And Nash even did a crotch chop.
There were crotch chops on both shows, yes. And I was watching it, and it was amazing because Shawn and Hunter, they came off as like a great Southern-style tag team, the Midnight Express or the Heavenly Bodies or one of those units. Hall and Nash came off from like another era and another region. They were like the Executioners. They were a 1970s MSG heel tag team where we're going to move real slowly. 95% of what we do is going to be stomping, punching, and elbowing. Occasionally, we'll do some sort of slam. And it's not going to be very, very slow. And if move to move is not going to be very good, but it's going to build up to that hot tag so well, it's going to work. And that's what it did. It worked. They worked a very smart match and got the most out of the very, very, very little they did. And it's time for the hot tag. and Page, who is a big man, and Nash, who is a huge man. Nash whips him in, and he goes to the side slam, and Page counters with the head scissors like they are two tiny luchadors. Crowd goes apeshit. And it all built up to the hot tag, where, as Brian noted, they just yanked the rug right out from under you. Fuck this company, thank God they're dead. I was so pissed 20 years later watching this. So the NWO hits the ring, they're beating them all up. Out come Flair and Giant to make the save. And what actually happens is Flair joins in the brawl on half of the ring, and it's Flair, Luger, Page versus all the B-teamers over there. And Nash has the other half of the ring to himself, and he is given the come here sign to the Giant, and the Giant is making his way down the aisle. And the crowd's going nuts, because guess what? It's cool when Giants fight. And Giant and Nash hit the ring, and let's be honest, this was a cool brawl. I've seen a lot of very bad Kevin Nash brawls. This is a very cool brawl. Places go nuts for that. And it ended with all the sheer chaos. So I don't even think by the end the crowd cared about not getting to see Lex's comeback. But it was so bad. He couldn't have given him 60 seconds to run wild and be Lex Luger. But that was Nitro.
It was a very exciting show. It's funny to watch him. I always am more excited for Nitro than Raw. Because Raw has better main event storylines, but the rest of that show is just like a chore.
The depth on Raw is terrible.
Oh my God, those hog farmers come out and I just fall asleep.
The bikers.
It's odd because I'm more excited to watch Raw because I was always a WWE kid.
So was I, but God, that show, the mid-card on Raw is just hideous.
Yeah.
Absolutely hideous. Mid-card on Nitro is at least funny, or exciting, or entertaining. Let's play a song. I got a buddy named Wang.
Who doesn't?
His name is like Tim or Ed or something.
So you'll never guess what he shows up in last night to do the Nogi class.
Purple.
Goddamn purple rash card. Purple Wang. Purple Wang.
Purple Wang.
And he's dying. Purple Wang.
Purple Wang.
That was amazing.
There you go.
A touching tribute.
Made the joke, got out.
Yeah. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. We'll be back on Thursday with Granny, as well as Raw, the Cruiserweight Classic, and NXT. And don't forget, going to the board, the Empire Get-Together section, RSVP for Super China Buffet Day Seattle. And get ready for Sunday. And that is it. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.
Bye.